Okay guys, I figured might as well show you the rest of the engine assembly, since I'm sure somebody will probably ask at some point. So hey, might as well make a video while I'm doing it. I've already installed the shift drum locking mechanism for each gear. This locks the drum in place. Two big things on this is you want these threads on this flathead and this screw. Also there's a star washer behind it, so don't forget that. But you want the threads on the case and these super clean, and then Loctite them, and then $10 or so, whatever. Get yourself an impact driver with a flat tip. They'll usually come with a flat and a Phillips. And Loctite them, get them in there, give them a couple smacks with the old impact wrench, and then take your punch. There's a little notch here, and take your punch and punch this screw so it actually pushes some metal into this divot right here, if you can see it. It's probably not necessary with the blue Loctite on there, but I go ahead and do it just for safety's sake. Now I've just flipped over the motor from my other video of popping the cases together. So as soon as you do that, the first thing you want to do, so you don't forget, is set your Kickstarter spring tension, and that's in another video, so I'm just going to do it, but that's part of the assembly. Now I'll get my little light just to make sure, and you'll see in the other video where you just watch for, there it is, just watch for the stop inside that little window to go by. The other video actually shows it, and just run away past, because that's the same way the Kickstarter is going to kick anyway. Make sure this bolt is out, and then just screw her in. Biggie here, okay, and it stops right there. Remember, we started it was pointing straight down, so it stopped there. So we know it's loaded. That's, you know, approximately, the factory says about 150. It's usually about 180 or so. So you can get that off of there, and then you can tighten this baby down. So okay, now she's tight. So now you've got your Kickstarter set, tension set. So now we go to the rest of it, and I'll try to stay out of the way. And next, what we want to do is we want to put the oiler in the transmission, and this is basically the oiler, and it's got a little stuff off on it from being out, so it never hurts to keep a little carb cleaner around and just spray it inside there to make sure. I just sprayed inside the little reservoir there to make sure there's no crud inside there, and clean it up, and make sure that's dry. And then the cases are nice and clean there. You also want to Loctite this, so you got your carb cleaner, and just give your screw a good shot to get the oil off of it. I don't really have to show it, but clean off the threads. Spray there. Don't try to breathe too much carb cleaner. It's fun, but it kills a lot of brain cells. That's probably why I'm like I am. Okay, so now grab your blue Loctite and pop this in. Make sure this has it. Most guys, when they disassemble motors, they don't realize, and this is in here in the transmission, they pull the cases apart and they break that off. So you don't get too good of oiling that way. So if yours is broken off, it'd be best to go ahead and find another one if you can. Like I said, the guys tend to just take stuff apart without really having a manual or whatever. So that's clean threads, Loctite. Screw this in. Make sure this is lined up. Okay, that's a little tight. Grab your impact again. Make sure it's loaded the right way. And a couple of good reps. And that's installed. So you've got that installed, because all this stuff goes in behind and you'll forget it, and then you have to take stuff all apart again. So next, what we want to do is use a shift shaft. Now, with the shift shaft, spring has to be assembled correctly. The spring against the actual shift arm there. There's also this part inside here. That needs to be there, or the spring will want to collapse. So make sure that's in there. And not all of them had this little spacer, but when you take it apart, make sure that spacer's on there. So we're going to be popping this in, so I like to put just a little bit of oil in the shaft, and then we're ready to slide this in. Slowly slide this through, and now there's a little bolt right here. I don't know if you can see it too well, right there. Make sure that's tight, and both sides of the spring just slip right over that bolt, and then slide this in. That goes right underneath this disc that catches the shifter pins, and so when you have the shift shaft on there, this actually pulls and turns this, which moves the shift forks. So we've got that in. That's pretty simple. Like I said, make sure you have the inner collar, the spring on correctly. The spring is on both sides of this bolt. That bolt's tight, and you've got the spacer if you had it. Now I'm going to get more paper towels. I should get a Christmas card from Bounty, all the things I use, all the paper towels. Okay, next we've got to put on our primary gear. If you look, there's our keyway there, and I just had the key. So you've got your key here. It goes in your keyway there. Now again, this gets torqued pretty good. I think a lot of guys go to 80 foot-pounds. I've never had a problem with 70. But this is going to get Loctited also, so that's not a huge deal. Try not to get anything on the seal or whatever, but you want to get all the oil off of these threads. Okay. Charlie's real good about this, but you always want to check. There's a little rubber O-ring right in between the this seal here, actually the shaft, and this inner bearing part. So make sure you have a new one in there, or the old one's in there, because if not, you'll get a leak. Here comes the primary gear. This takes a little finessing. This gear is super tight on the crankshaft. A lot of guys pull a nut off and it doesn't want to come off, and that's just because it's a super tight fit. Now putting them on again takes a little bit of finesse, because you have to kind of look behind there and get that keyway lined up with the slot. And usually takes a few tries sometimes, but let's see how that works. And this gear just kind of, sometimes you have to do just a light tap on it. Doesn't take much, but main thing is get the keyway in the right place. You can see how tight that is, and it's not going to hurt. You can just see how tight that is. Okay, but like I said, just lightly tap it. That's not going to hurt anything. And so she's almost home now, and so now we're ready for the Next we've got our lock washer. And so you can see there's a little cut, a little tab that's bent up there. That just goes in the keyway hole. And then our nut, let's see, we've got a big one and a small one, so make sure that one fits. And make sure I have the right socket. Alright, got the right socket. Now on these nuts, like everything else, I've got those threads cleaned already. So you want to get all the oil off the nuts because we're going to also Loctite these. I don't know which there was a changeover, but sometimes some of the early H2s had a smaller nut. I don't know if this is one or not, and they did have a loosening problem. And so I haven't ever had this one come loose, so I've been pretty lucky if it's the wrong one. So, but we can get this on here, and I didn't put any Loctite on it because I'm just going to really didn't have to put that on it either. I'm just going to just screw this on home so it's all the way in. And just use this. Just bottom this out for right now so she's settled. Okay. Oops. So you can see how pretty tight fit that is. That's very tight tolerance on that. I'm going to go ahead and loosen that. I didn't have to put the locker on it, but I did. Just to show you that it goes there. Okay. So now the screw gear is already all the way home. And we can tighten that after we do the clutch. So next comes the clutch. Big thing to remember, there's a big thick washer that goes on right before the bearing. You have your inner bearing, and here's your clutch hub. And so your inner bearing just slips inside there. Check and make sure your bearing rolls nice and smooth. Now one thing on the triples, these, it's hard to tell inside here, but these rivets hold the gear on to the clutch hub. Now there's little springs and rubber dampers in there, or maybe just rubber dampers, I can't remember for sure. But they get old and hard, or the springs loosen, so sometimes you'll have it'll be kind of wiggly between here and here. Now sometimes you can tighten it up by smacking in these rivets. Basically what happens, it just scares the guys to death because it sounds awful, because it's just this clanky sound. So a lot of guys really freak out if they've never had a trouble before. But these guys can make some noise, and so just make sure your bearing's nice. And if this is if it's really loose, then you have a problem. If it's just kind of loose, it's not too bad. And so once we have the primary on, I've already go through the clutch part. So we just slip that on. And home. Make sure you got your big washer back there. You have to put this gear on first because you can't get it on after that. So you want to put your primary, at least assemble your primary gear before you put your clutch together. Now you've got your clutch, you've got your outer housing on there, and you have a thick washer behind there. Now there's a washer that goes in between both baskets, so you don't want to forget that either. So next you've got your clutch hub, and then the old stuff off. Now I've got actually I put in a heavy-duty clutch, and basically what that comes with or does, you use the 500 steels or thinner, and then you can actually get in an extra plate, a steel plate and a fiber plate. But what you have to do is, or what I do, is you put this in the lathe. There's a little nub here, okay? You want to cut 30 thousandths or 3/4 of a millimeter off the back of this little nub, so you'll have enough room for all the plates. So we're almost ready for that, but again, this is going to get Loctited. So I want to give these threads a good cleaning. And, again, I just moisten it so you're not dripping in on stuff, taking out the oil. Off the stuff that you want oil. Okay. Okay. So you've got that, you've got clean threads, you've got your washer. It's time to drop on your inner hub. Slips right on there. Now you've got your other nut. I don't know if I cleaned this before, but I'm doing it again just in case. So get that clean. So that's nuts all clean. I'll let oil off of that, oil off the threads here. Now, there's a couple of things to look out for. You've got this really ratty looking washer here. They're usually always beat up, but it has a very good reason for it, because there's some dimples in the hub here, and just try to match one of the dimples or a few of them into that hub there. What that does is that actually keeps everything else from spinning, or actually keeps this from spinning. This is your inside star washer, which is very important. You don't want to forget that. And so you've got to have that, your back washer there. Alright, and then let me go grab the special tool. I'll be right back. Special tool. Now, you know, these were hard to find. It was a factory tool, and then I think recently some company, maybe K&L or whatever, started actually producing these for like 20 bucks or so. I had this made a while back. It's basically a clutch holding tool, and it's just 3 old steel plates tack welded together with a handle, and so this works really well. You just got to make sure the handle will fit in the slot there. So what this is going to do is you just kind of match it up to the inner hub. That's a pretty tight fit. And I can wiggle that around. And okay, so it's in the inner hub, and then it's locked between the outer hub there. So this keeps this from turning, because there's really no way of tightening it, you know, with the motor disassembled, because this will also turn. There's another way that they used to do it. They used to put like a dowel or something in the rod so it couldn't turn. I don't like to do that. That's kind of crappy. So you've got your dented up washer that goes in the dimples in the clutch hub there. You've got your inner star washer. Now next we want to grab our Loctite again, and let's see, I've got 2. I've got this one, and you just want to get some Loctite on this guy, and hopefully that's the same socket. No, it's not the same socket. Alright, so I'm going to have to grab my bigger socket. Be right back. Okay, got my big old socket. Now, so you've got your Loctite on the nut, the threads are clean, dent washer, beat up washer, and you've got your star washer there, you've got your clutch holder tool there also. Some guys, they'll use an air impact. I must admit I've used it before, but it's really not a good idea. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do. So, okay. So make sure everything's there. That's all I'm looking in the dented areas. Alright, now we're going to go. Up to 70. Okay. 70. How fun. Okay. Okay, let's see. And that's 70. Now this can be a lot of fun sometimes, because you've got to hold your clutch and not trap your hand. Okay. Slide off your special tool. And clutch nuts tight. So we like that. Alright, so we've got everything installed correctly. So I'd like to just wipe that off. Now next, while we got it there, torque wrench set, we can Loctite our primary on there. That's my Loctite that's gooped up. So it's not a big deal. Most of this runs out anyway, but you want to make sure it gets on all the threads. And we got I forgot to buy a new one of these. This one's a little bit beat up, but it's going to work fine. That slips on there. And then this screws on. And alright, got this. And so, alright, and I should have left my specialty tool in there, but I didn't, so I'll just put it back. Just a little bit further there. Almost. Come on, you can do it. You can get it. Okay. Okay, I'll just cheat a bit. I'll lock that against the Kickstarter shaft. I forgot that's how I used to do it. Okay. Fight me, won't you? Okay, so she's tight. Now again, with a torque wrench, whenever you're done or getting ready to put it up, loosen the spring, because it doesn't like tension on it while it's just sitting, and you can lose some of your accuracy there. So now that's tight, and this should really be fun getting out, because it's also tight. There we go. Now this tool also will fit if you do get one of the tools, it also fits a 500. So we've got that tight. Now what we want to do is we take our nasty old rusty all-in-one tool. Yeah, I know. And so just kind of get this started. You don't want to bang on it too much because of the bearing. So, down. Doesn't take much to bend that. Are we still in frame? Ha! Good. Alright, so we've got that started. Try my other tool. So I just take my channel locks, really ugly channel locks, and then bend it down. See if I can grab another tooth there. Okay, there we go. There we go. And there we go. Okay, so we got lock clean threads and Loctite, 70 foot-pounds of torque. We got this folded over so that nut can't go loose. Fingers crossed. Okay, so now our primary drive's tight, our clutch is tight. Then the guys start putting in their clutch plates, and you can do that, and then you usually forget your mushroom and your rods. So I like to put those in now. I've got, this is a few years old. This is a Cytec, which was an upgrade from the factory stuff. It's got finer threads, so it doesn't move quite as much when you pull on the clutch. It doesn't move a whole lot, but what it does do, it makes it pull a lot easier. So these are really popular. The only problem is the pitch was kind of fine, and so it was hard to get all your adjustment in that you really needed, because it just had to be real delicate with it. So a friend of mine came up with moving this pivot, and I haven't done it yet. That's why I'm not installing it yet. Just 10 millimeters in, center to center. Just 10 millimeters in, they give you a little extra room there, and it also it still has a real easy pull. So I haven't done that mod yet, so I haven't put that in yet. So I just put these in now. The 750s have a long rod, a short rod, and a ball bearing. All right, the 500s don't have it, so don't freak out if the 500 is almost exactly the same. So if you don't have that little ball, don't freak out because it doesn't have one. So what you want to do is go ahead, put your short arm in, and never hurt. Get some heavy duty oil on that. And your ball next. Of course, I don't like to do this first because I don't want oil on the threads. And a little oil on the long shaft. And it really doesn't matter which way you go. This one's seeing just a little dimple from the ball because it's been used a lot. So just slide that in, and then some oil here, and don't forget your mushroom. Okay. And then a little coat of oil on your mushroom. Now we can do the clutch. Sorry this is taking so long, but explaining it just extends the time quite a bit. So next comes the clutch. Like I said, I've got actually I've got Barnett plates in it, and I've got the special. These are cryogenically treated frozen aluminum discs, and so I gave those a shot, and they work really well. I'm kind of happy with those guys. So I'm putting them back in. Don't forget you've got your little your wave washers. These aren't absolutely necessary. Some guys take them out, some guys leave them in. If your bike sits at all, these will actually keep the clutch plates from sticking together because it's got a little spring to it, so it'll pull it apart. So if you don't put them in, then the clutch is going to stick, and you're going to have fun breaking that loose. And also, one thing to look for: you look on the high spots on these guys, because that's where they wear. And if you see any thin spots, then go ahead and replace them. You can probably, if you find some good used ones or whatever, because if you don't, they'll break up and then cause all sorts of problems. Now this is a used clutch, so I'm not going to oil the plates. New plates you want to soak overnight, which is recommended. And so do that. So you've got your fiber, your spreader, then you've got your steel, or these are aluminum. A couple of things to look for also. The older the clutch gets, these can, from the plates, these fingers, they can get indented. So make sure you check these inside here, because if they're worn really bad and dented, then the clutch plates don't want to move, so the clutch gets sticky. So make sure they all have some kind of wear, but make sure they're not real deep dents in there, because if it is, it's really hard to machine them all exactly, and if you don't, then you break the plates and all that. So you have to find a good used one. So, but that's another thing just to look for, is that. So you've got your aluminum steel in there, and then you drop in another fiber, then your wavy washer. This is pretty mundane shit. Shoot. Alright, you've got your steel, got your fiber, put your waver in there. Okay, you've got another steel. Like I said, this is has 2 extra plates over stock, so like I said, these are 500 plates, they're thinner. So you can get an extra plate in there with the machining. So you've got that. Then you've got your extra plate. Then you've got your wavy. Alright, plate. Then you've got your steel. And you go with another fiber. Put your wavy under the fiber. Then you've got your steel. Alright. Got that. Got another wavy. Got your steel, aluminum, whatever you want to call it. God, these are just weigh nothing, which is kind of cool for a clutch. And then you got fiber, wavy. Then you've got a steel. And then I guess I didn't have a spare at the time, so I don't have a wavy for the outside, so I'll just have to deal with it. Now, this is where guys go crazy. Alright, the older guys or whatever. The purist, whatever you want to call them. Now, the 750s have a metal ring that goes over the outside. There's a little cut out here for all these guys. And it's got a cutout, and a metal ring goes on it so the fingers don't spread out and the clutch plates slip off or slip inside there. I've road raced for years, just ran the hell out of these per motors, never had that problem, and so I don't run one, but it drives them crazy, so that's fine. If they want, go ahead, and if you've got a ring, put a ring on. The only thing you have to look out for is there's going to be under your second plate. These tabs are going to be too long because they're basically like universal. So you're going to have to grind those down just a little bit, just enough so that ring will slide over. You can slide that ring on, and then this other plate goes on top, and that holds it in place so it can't come off the clutch. So just to drive those guys crazy, I don't do it. If I ever have a problem, then I'll do it. But as it sits now, I don't do it. So go ahead, go crazy, guys. Now we've got our pressure plate, and we'll add a little oil here, a little bit more there. Now, this is where guys get into trouble. They put their clutches together and they go, it hangs up, it sticks, it won't release, it's having all sorts of problems. Now on the 500 and 750s, if if you look around on the inside here, on the inside hub, there's a dot, there's an indent right there, alright? The reason for that is even though this pressure plate can go 5 different ways, alright, only one way is exactly correct. Alright, so that's where people get into problem. Now if you look on this plate, yeah, where did it go? Let's see. Yeah, it's kind of hard to tell. If you look on this plate, one of these inside holes had a little nubby sticking up. Alright, you got your nubby there and you got your indent there. So that's where you want to line it up. Your nubby and your indent. Boy, that's technical, isn't it? So this you just kind of have to wiggle around. And your nubby and indent are lined up, so you won't have clutch problems. The S-Series is kind of harder to do. You'll have to look that up if you've got an S-Series. So next, you've got your cups. Alright, well, you almost have all your cups. Another cup. Got your cups, and then your springs. Now I have 2 different kind of heavy-duty springs. So they're pretty close. They're all, it's not a huge deal to me. Usually on most motors, even hopped up, like stage 2 or whatever, you can just use, I just use 3 of these springs because that's all you need, so you don't have a massive clutch pull. And then I'll just have 2 stalkers, but these I've got a little bit heavy duty also. Some guys freak out because they think, oh, the plate's going to come off crooked, it's going to wear stuff. I've done this for 40 years, never had a problem with it. So I think they're just a little bit too worried about stuff they don't need to be worried about. And even now I've got a little bit different length springs, but I'm putting in 5 heavy duties because I will be using the Cytec, which makes the pull a whole lot easier. We'll see if I can use my super fingers. Might just work better in the socket. See. Still worried about the spring tension, so I got my super fingers here. Oops. We still in view? Yeah, we're still in view. Good. Alright. So we got these in. Alright, these others. These others will be the exciting factor. Okay. Okay, there we go. Ouch, that hurts. All right. These are a little bit longer. Almost. Come on. I grunt a lot. Ouch, come on. Ouch, this is getting painful. Alright, let's try another one then. Ouch. Getting old. Got it close. Ouch. Catch, baby. Okay. One more to go. Yay. Alright, let's see. Get this one. Ouch. boy, so close. So painful. Oh man. Ouch. Alright. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm just going to tighten these other ones up a little bit. I don't think it'll make any difference, but I don't like these hanging on by just a couple of threads. Too long. And that gives my fingers a chance to... It does hurt. Alright, one to go, guys. Oh, that hurts. Oh, that hurts. I don't have any feel with gloves. You can get it in that way. I just can't get any twist. Alright, are we still in frame? Got to keep in frame. Pretty much. Let's see what I can see. Yes. Okay. Okay. My hand thanks you. Now, a lot of guys ask, they think, oh, there's no lock washer. Do I need to put Loctite on it or lock washers? No! The spring tension holds these guys tight. They're not going to come loose. And with these guys, then they think, okay, well, it doesn't have anything on there, so I need to muscle them tight. And they'll put a good twist on them, and then the heads pop off the bolts. And then you have to take everything apart. The only good thing really is the part inside the clutch hub will it'll just come out. It's not like you have to easy out or anything. You just kind of have to catch it and spin it back out because it's not really stuck in the thread. You just blew the top off the bolt. So again, even with stock springs, no Loctite, no lock washers. These babies are under some tension, so nothing to worry about. That's how the factory does it. That's how I do it. So I just grab it right by the head and check, 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 check. Alright. Guess what? The clutch is done. So, we've got all that. We've got the primary on, clutch all together. The rods inside there, our little mushroom, the shift shaft, that and all that fun stuff. And I'm beat. It's really late, and so that's all I'm going to do tonight. Got started late. So there you go, guys, and we'll come back tomorrow, and actually all we really have left is putting in the oil pump drive and all that fun stuff. So that's about it, and we're about ready to button this side up. So alright guys, I'm done for tonight. Afternoon guys, we're back to finish off this motor. Not much left to do, basically just the oil drive. Now as far as the oil drive goes, you've got your tang washer that will go in the cutout in the end of the crank. You've got your drive gear. Very important is your star washer, so make sure that's there, and your bolt. Now again, this is going to be Loctited, and so just want to make cleaner in there. Make sure. You can use Q-tips if you like. This is pretty clean anyway, but just want to make sure your threads are clean for the Loctite. Give a little another spray here. Just be careful. Make sure all the oil's off the threads. Now you've got to, this is important because sometimes the guys lose this little star washer and decide not to put it on or whatever else. And there's been a few times where this bolt wasn't installed correctly. It will back off. And it'll back off, it'll unscrew and pop right through the cover and ruin the cover and ruin your day usually, because then the oil pump stops in the tack. So make sure all these parts are there and all your threads are clean. So I'm just cleaning up the threads here real quick. Okay, threads are clean. Got a tin here. So that should be dry. Then again, you want to we're just having a discussion about this because see, I have a problem. It's very dry and hot here, and a lot of guys will say, well, Loctite won't dry up if it's got air in it or if it's exposed to air. And sure as heck, for some reason this stuff will dry up on me. And this was just from last night. So I'm going to break here real quick. Okay, I'm back. Got my Loctite cleared. And so just get on the threads. And there's an inside tab here that locks into the gear. And this outside tab that'll slide right into the crankshaft. And lock that. You've got your star washer and your Loctite. And threads are clean. Alright. And again, I don't torque this. I can just hold like that. And then just use top of the ratchet. Okay. She's tight. That's pretty much it for assembling the right side of the motor. She's ready for, always double check everything, make sure it's all there, turns freely. And now it's actually ready for the cover. Now I'm not going to do that now because I've got some other things to do, but as far as the only other thing here is on any of the paper gaskets on these guys, your side cover gaskets, your base gasket if you still use paper base gaskets, I will take this, it really doesn't matter, I use a silver anti-seize. And the reason I do that, and I'll just rub it on my fingers and just put a thin coat on all the gaskets. And that way you've got, when you put everything together and tighten it all up, the gaskets aren't stuck, which is to me a pain in the butt. So and you can reuse them a couple of times, at least the side cover gaskets. And so I'll just put a thin layer on it, and that way when it comes apart you just peel the gasket off, no scraping, which is really great for the base gaskets. And it actually kind of acts as a filler if there's any cracks or stuff, or any scratches or anything. It actually kind of acts as a filler and kind of hardens up, but to fill them. but it doesn't stick. Just be really careful around the oil hole in the back of the gasket so you don't get a bunch of stuff in there and it's all globbed in. But if you do that on your paper gaskets, when everything comes apart, it's going to come apart. You peel off the gasket and you're ready to rock. One other thing is that the cylinders on these guys tend to want to stick. They get corrosion in here, and some of them shattered cylinders just trying to get them off because they corrode down here. So when you do assemble your cylinders also, you don't want on the threads, but take your anti-seize and just run it around the bottom of the stud here, because that's where the aluminum's going to be closest on the cylinder. Run it around there, and 40-50 years from now, whoever pulls that cylinders off is just going to be happy as can be, because that thing's just going to slide right off without any corrosion. So guys, that's basically it for putting the right side of an engine together. The late 500s are pretty much the same. The early 500s have a little different kind of clutch, so as anything else, always use your find a manual to use, and that's about it. Like I said, use at your own discretion. This is how I do it. It's worked for me for 40 years, and so some of it's, you know, not by the book, but after racing and doing all the other stuff and playing with these guys for so long, some stuff you can kind of get away with. If you're worried about it, the springs, whatever else, you know, fine. Do however you want it, this outside ring, but this is just how I do it. So I hope you enjoyed the video, though, even though it was long, and thanks for watching.